it's time for a book talk for this week. So, book talk that I'm going to be doing this week is on the very first book in the Keys to the Kingdom series by Garth Nix. And this particular book, as you can see, is called Mr. Monday. This series is a fantasy series. So fantasy is in the fiction genre, which means that it is a made-up story. But not only is it a fictional story, it also includes like magic and other worlds and spells and things like that. All that fun stuff that we include in the fantasy genre. So I tend to tell students that if you are a fan of like Harry Potter or Narnia or those sorts of stories, that you would really like the Keys to the Kingdom series. Like those stories, it's about a kid who's about you guys' age, and he ends up getting pulled into this magical world, has to figure out what on earth is going on in this magical world, and then also, by the end of the story, kind of has to save the world. So main character's name is Arthur Penhaligon, and he's just, living his normal life, doing his thing, going to school. He's the youngest in his family. His dad is the lead singer in a rock band, and his mom is a doctor. And they move, and then he ends up having to go to a new school. The thing with Arthur is that he has really bad asthma in the story. But he doesn't like to, just like admit to the fact that he has asthma. He sometimes likes to try to like push himself to be able to do more than he really should be able to do, and doesn't use his inhaler all the time like he should. And a couple times he has ended up in the hospital because of it, and, has almost died because of it. So his mom is trying to emphasize like, Arthur, come on, don't try to be a hero. Like, use your inhaler like you should. He's like, yes, Mom. But, he's a teenager, doesn't like to listen. And so because they're at this new school, his first week there, he has gym class, and the gym teacher at the school is pretty hardcore. And so the gym teacher says that they're all going to go out for a run. And it ends up being a pretty long run. And Arthur's like, I have asthma. I might not be able to do this. And the gym teacher's like, I didn't get a note from a nurse saying that you had asthma. You have to do the run. Arthur's like, okay, wants to like make a good impression at his new school. So they go for this run, and he starts running, and he's trying to, keep up with the pack, and he can feel the asthma creeping up in his lungs, and doesn't have his inhaler, and keeps trying to push himself to run, and they're on the far side of the course, and he stops being able to breathe. So he lays down on the ground. His friends who he's running with go off to try to get the gym teacher, to try to get help, but they're pretty far away from the school at that point. And so he's laying there trying not to panic, but also really can't breathe, so he's kind of panicking. And at that moment, there's this big flash of light, and out of nowhere appear two guys, and they look a little strange. And one of them is in a wheelchair, and the other one is pushing that guy in the wheelchair. And that's where I'm going to start reading to you guys from the story. It seems like they have just arrived there, and they're looking for someone, and they keep saying that they're looking for the person who is dying, which is Arthur at this point in his life. The two men were talking as they approached. They seemed entirely unaware of Arthur or uninterested in him. I don't know why I keep you upstairs, Sneezer, said the man in the bath chair, or agree to your ridiculous plans. Now, sir, said the butler type, who was obviously called Sneezer. Now that they were closer, Arthur noticed that his nose was rather red and had a patchwork of broken blood vessels shining under the skin. It's not a plan, but a precaution. We don't want to be bothered by the will, do we? I suppose not, grumbled the young man. He yawned widely and closed his eyes. You're sure that we'll find someone suitable here? Sure as eggs is eggs, replied Sneezer. Sure, even eggs not always being what one might expect. I set the dials myself to find someone suitably on the edge of infinity. You give him the key, he dies, you get it back, another 10,000 years without trouble, and the will can't quibble 'cause you did give up the key to one in the line of heredity, as it were." "It's very annoying," said the young man, yawning again. I'm quite exhausted with all this running around and answering those ridiculous inquiries from up top. How should I know how that bit of will got out? I'm not going to write a report, you know. I haven't the energy. In fact, I really need a nap." "Not now, sir, not now," said Sneezer urgently. He shaded his eyes with one dirty, half-gloved hand and looked around. Strangely, he still seemed unable to see Arthur, although he was right in front of him. "We're almost there." "We are there," said the young man coldly. He pointed at Arthur as if the boy had suddenly appeared out of nowhere. "Is that it?" Sneezer left the bath chair and advanced on Arthur. His attempt at a smile revealed even more yellow teeth, some of them broken, but all too many of them sharp and dog-like. "Hello, my boy," he said. "Let's have a bow for Mr. Monday." Arthur stared at him. It must be an unknown side effect, he thought. Oxygen deprivation, hallucinations. A moment later, he felt a hard, bony hand grip his head and bob it forward several times as Sneezer made him bow to the man in the bath chair. The shock and unpleasantness of the touch made Arthur cough and lose all his hard-won control over his breathing. Now he really was panicking, and he couldn't breathe at all. "Bring him here," instructed Mr. Monday. With a languid sigh, he leaned over the side of the bath chair as Sneezer dragged Arthur effortlessly over, using only 2 fingers to pick the boy up by the back of his neck. "You're sure this one will die straight away?" Mr. Monday asked, reaching out to lift Arthur's chin and look at his face. Unlike Sneezer, Monday's hands were clean and his nails trimmed. There was hardly any force in his grip, but Arthur found he couldn't move at all, as if Mr. Monday had pressed a nerve that paralyzed his whole body. Sneezer rummaged in his pocket with one hand, not letting go of Arthur's neck. He pulled out 6 scrunched-up pieces of paper which hung in the air as if he'd laid them on an invisible desk. He sorted through them quickly, smoothed one out, and held it against Arthur's cheek. The paper shone with a bright blue light, and Arthur's name appeared on it in letters of gold. "It's him, no doubt about it at all," said Sneezer. He thrust the paper back in his pocket, and all the others went back as if they were joined together on a thread. "Arthur Penhaligon, due to drop off the twig any minute. You'd best give him the key, sir." Mr. Monday yawned again and let go of Arthur's chin. Then he slowly reached inside the left sleeve of his silk robe and pulled out a slender metal spike. It looked very much like a thin-bladed knife without a handle. Arthur stared at it, his mind and sight already fuzzy again from the lack of oxygen. Somewhere in his head, under that fuzziness, the panicked voice had told him to use his inhaler, was screaming again, "Run away, run away, run away!" Though the weird paralysis from Monday's touch had gone, Sneezer's grip did not lessen for a moment, and Arthur simply had no strength to break free. "By the powers vested in me under the arrangements entered into the blah, blah, blah," muttered Mr. Monday. He spoke too quickly for Arthur to make out what he was saying. He didn't slow down until he reached the final few words, "and so let the will be done." As he finished, Monday thrust out with the blade. At the same time, Sneezer let Arthur go, and the boy fell back on the grass. Monday laughed wearily and dropped the blade into Arthur's open hand. Instantly, Sneezer made Arthur wrap his fingers around it, pushing so hard that the metal bit into his skin. With the pain came another sudden shock. Arthur found that he could breathe. It was as if a catch had been turned at the top of his lungs, unlocking them to let the air in. "And the other," said Sneezer urgently. "He has to have it all." Monday peered across at his servant and frowned. He started to yawn, but quashed it, taking an angry swipe across his own face. "You're very keen for the key to leave my possession, even if only for a few minutes," said Monday. He'd been about to take something else out of his other sleeve, but now he hesitated. "And to give me boiled brandy and water. Too much boiled brandy and water. Perhaps in my weariness I have not given this matter quite the thought." And that's where I'm going to pause. As you can tell, Arthur does not, in fact, die. And the strange piece of metal that was put into Arthur's hand is one of the keys that is referenced in the title of this book series. And it is one of the keys to the will that rules the entire universe. In this story, the will has been broken up into several little pieces, and the will that is kind of the force that keeps the universe rolling is in need of a lot of help. And because this key has been given to Arthur, he becomes sort of the chosen one to save the universe, as it were. And it's a really exciting story about how Arthur goes about doing that. So I hope that you guys will choose to read this book. Here's the deal. So I went on the ebook website, and last time I was on there, they had every book in this series available except the first one. I'm not sure why that's the case, because you would definitely need to read the first one first to read the others. So here's the deal. As you can see, I have a paper copy of this one. First come, first serve. If you decide that you would like to read this book, if you send me a message on Schoology, or if you email me, I will mail this book to you. I will send it to you so that you can read it. That is how much I love this book, and of course, how much I care about all of you and your reading and knowledge and all that. But if you have the paper copy of this first one, you should also be able to read the others on the ebook website. So first I have one copy. So first person who emails me is the lucky winner and gets the copy of this book. It's fabulous. I think that you would all love it. All right. And I hope that you guys have a great week, and I will talk to you later. Bye.